Okay. All right, it's working. Thanks for everyone for joining. This is our discussion on scaling performance and brand marketing in 2025. So with me, I have three great growth and performance marketing leaders here. So we've got Dan from Paul Smith, one of my favorite personal places to work as well, Anthony from Women's Best, and then Scott from Skims as well. So our first question for the day is, obviously, I think a lot of people in the room have had a similar experience, but 2025 has been a super kind of interesting start to the year. So with all the global changes in the market, how has this affected your guys' strategy from January to now, and has it changed, or are you continually evolving?
Yeah, I can start. I think the start of the year definitely just introduced a ton of uncertainty. So far, I'm sure you guys are feeling it as well. And one of the things I think I'm preaching internally is really just getting comfortable with that uncertainty and using it as a strength, and really making sure the team is agile as can be. I think consumer preferences are shifting probably quicker than they ever have. If you think about terms like For You page or My Algo, it's really shifting from consumers being like AI adverse to closer to like identifying with their algorithm. And in this sense, with the overstimulation, or if you think about how many times you're approached by brands, your preference center is probably as concentrated as it's ever been. And so understanding the empathy of the consumer, but also getting the teams comfortable with uncertainty ahead has really been the superpower at Skims so far this year.
And yeah, from our end, actually, quarter one actually has been very, very good, very profitable. And I think that's actually a word I'll probably echo quite a bit is focusing on profitability at scale for the business and just making sure that we identify the markets that are helping us growing and actually driving like that bottom line for the business, which is really, really important. I think we'll hear a lot about the tariffs and things like this probably throughout the day and maybe throughout the next few months. The question is, how do we navigate it? And again, to echo what has been said just before, is actually being agile and making sure that we can react and that the teams actually embrace the fact that things will get messy, but actually, if we push through, actually, we might just come back stronger at the end.
Yeah, I'll definitely echo what both of you said. In terms of that agility and that reactiveness, for us, it's definitely come down to that reactiveness. At Paul Smith, in this last week, we've had to be extremely reactive with our approach in terms of strategy and the ad sets that we're setting live, shifting that focus. March was a particularly tough month, a bit turbulent, but the first quarter overall ended up being strong, with January and February performing really well. But March definitely has been that turbulent period for us, and I can see that going into the next couple of months as well.
Amazing. And then on that as well, have you focused or changed your spend in areas to be like brand focused versus performance focused, or how do you guys manage that internally? Because a lot of people kind of group it together, a lot of people have separated it. What would be your advice on that front, and managing probably expectations from above on that?
Yeah, from above, you're always subject to sort of the budget set, hitting certain targets every month, as we all are. But no, we've been managing with Avant and the team, the guys there, Dara B, working really closely on sort of a new model, which is new to us as well, working on a cost of sale approach, and really measuring that out. In terms of that budget split, we are now we've been heavy on a Google perspective for the past few years, really. But this first 2 months, we've actually seen Meta taking up the majority of the spend, especially last month, as we're trying to push a bit more of that brand awareness out. So yeah, we are still sort of subject to the ROI, where performance comes in. But on a brand level, we are really trying to push out now. We've actually launched some brand activation last week from Paul's trip to Japan. So yeah.
Amazing.
Nice.
And do you think a lot of that relies on your content and from the content team?
Definitely, yeah, definitely does. We're having to be reactive with that content as well, and sort of going ad hoc almost in some areas, and trying to get as much creative live as we possibly can. Going back to that creative diversity from a brand perspective is what we need.
Great.
And I think for us, actually, it's a little bit different because it depends on the market. Our influencer spend is about 1.5 times higher than paid in general. So it depends which market we're trying to identify and grow. For example, a lot long ago we've done this in Germany, where we've actually been going with brand with paid because we have a little bit less activity, and we've seen really, really strong results. But I think the main focus in the very first place is to actually drive again that profitability for the business and understanding what channels help us where. I think we were a bit of in a different situation where we started working with Vant, where we were heavily or 100% with Meta. So we had a lot of, let's say, room for Google to come in and to like take in
and
all
then diversify it.
Yeah, rack in the cash basically in a way. And so I think this was what we've been focusing on a lot. But I think now that we are seeing maybe a bit too much reliance on paid, I think this is where we really need to take it to the next stage and actually invest in that brand awareness where we see decent results. But I think the hardest thing is to make it work for like the finance team, let's say, where actually you need to drive the bottom line to make sure that we actually get the cash in to invest later on into those channels.
Yeah, totally agree. I think everything is context within context, and if you think about the role of a growth marketer and all the places they can spend at this current juncture, like we're on 14 channels, I'm launching over 100 ads every week. There's a lot of ways to play. And that's both that lower funnel and then the upper funnel, which we're talking a bit about, is that brand spend. So things we would consider audio, TV, billboards, all of those have like longer tenures in terms of return. And you have to kind of commit to that. Sometimes I say, like, the upper funnel spend is like the closest thing to religion in marketing because you kind of just have to believe. And having that faith in the story you're telling and being consistent, I think is important externally, but when you're thinking about how you're telling the story internally, it's probably just as important to convince the humans you're trying to tell the story to that it's a good idea. And I think the marketer who does that well is the most effective in these kind of organizations.
Do you have any tips on how to convince people of your like wild and wonderful ideas that we've seen everywhere?
Yeah, I don't know how wonderful they are, but they are wild for sure. I think the biggest thing I've learned, and I probably spend 90% of my brain, is building social relationships internally. I think having the organization and the culture around you to believe in paid. I think paid and growth marketing is such a specific task. Like we often talk with acronyms that no one understands. We're often asking for creative that no one believes in. And to have that trust is really important. And the thing I think I've realized is that social relationships just take time. I flew here this week, and I've been looking at all the flowers. I have a friend that's a florist, and I've been thinking about, like, she was telling me that, like, daffodils take, like, 5 to 7 years from seed to bloom. And sorry, I'm not poetic in this way, but I've been thinking about the internal social relationships and how, despite, like, my role being director of growth or whatever, there is no instantaneous expectation between I and another person that this needs to be done right away. It has to build upon itself, and building that culture where we're going to have this relationship and you're going to believe in what I'm telling you is probably the biggest unlock we've seen within the couple of years I've been at Skims.
I think that makes real sense, and I think it'd be good to touch on as well, like how your guys' role doesn't just cover performance, like you don't work in growth marketing alone, and any kind of like key partners that you think in the business or in your businesses that are always kind of someone that you should maybe stay friendly with, like finance, or like where your main reliance is within the business and how it stretches.
Yeah, I call it kind of like the bestie effect. So the things I'm doing is we have products that we sell and stories that you tell. And so if you think about like demand planning, right, like the story being told is brand, and then the products being sold, and hopefully your products are better than your story, is that product and merchandising, and understanding both. Also, like making the cross-functional partners trust you. I have my head of international here with us, Eva, who's very talented, probably the most talented. And having that relationship where it's like, we're not going to be on the same time zone, but I believe when I go to bed, all the things that we need to get done are going to be done, and likewise. And that inner relationship makes the entire org stronger, and hopefully it kind of bleeds into the rest of the org, because you'll definitely have these verticals that are siloed by function, where this vertical isn't necessarily that close with another vertical, and it's for X reason. But until you break those down, you really won't see like the return of building an internal culture like I think you should.
Yeah, I think from our end as well, it's a little bit similar. Usually I refer to it as languages because everyone speaks a different language. When it comes to paid, when it comes to merchandising, you know, someone in merch will care about like OTB and cover and things like this. And then maybe in finance, they'll care about your EBITDA and your margins and stuff. And actually the main thing for us is to make sure that we get to understand each other on the same level. And actually we sell the idea of paid to drive, say, a lower cover for merchandising, or maybe for like the finance team to say, oh, actually, if we unlock this, we move more stock, means more cash. We talk about cash flow and so on. So I think it's just a really big thing of cross-functional, making sure that, again, we can speak the same language and understand each other, and then actually the more favors we're able to do to these guys, the more then they'll ask from us afterwards. And I think then...
And how you like feedback and how the flows across everyone,
Yeah, it's definitely like that umbrella effect almost, where you're sitting in the middle and you're working with all of the partners internally, and you're building those relationships with your buying and merchandising teams to know how much stock they've brought of a certain category or a certain collection of products. You're working with your creative team to making sure we're getting that creative consistency and getting that diversity across all of the different categories. I mean, we almost sell nearly everything, so sometimes it's quite hard to push certain categories as much as we can. And then, as you mentioned, Jay, like finance, working with finance, I actually sit under the department of finance, so that's how you get in the pocket. That's it. So
your best friends.
That's it, besties, the besties. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, it is almost being able to speak those different languages from, what is the sell-through rate of this collection so far, how can we push that further? What is the return on investment that we're going to generate from pushing that category overall, and almost isolating it to a collection and the return that you're going to generate from that individual collection. We've just launched a collaboration with Lee, and we're looking at that on a 6-week basis, looking at the return on investment from the ad sets that we're setting live, monitoring the sell-through rate with buying and merchandising, introducing more creative, adding that diversity. So it is that almost umbrella effect, and working with all of those different partners within the business.
And then like feeding back as well, we said. But last point I had before we asked for any tips is obviously all of your brands have had huge success with influencers and celebrity. It'd be great to touch on like if you actually think it's still worth investing in 2025, or if you think like celebrity versus influencer works better, and where you guys have seen success on that front.
I mean, we've not done many celebrity stuff recently. I mean, we're the official tailoring partner for Man United, and what we've done with that recently is it's been quite interesting. So we're working with Avant as well. We've been looking at how this has worked for us, but they've got a new manager. Anyone who supports Man United in here, Ruben Amorim. Shout out to Amorim for wearing that coat. So basically, he's been wearing a PS long down jacket with a little zebra,
Art stripe.
Little stripe on the jacket. We've actually seen, since he started wearing that, the sell-through rate has gone up by 156%, and we've had to actually buy loads more of this jacket and wait to push it again until it came back into stock.
And it just keeps selling out.
It just keeps selling. We've got a full waiting list of people on sort of Klaviyo backing stock requests. We'll push it organically on social. Every time there's a match day and he's wearing the jacket, Google search goes up.
Oh, wow.
You can literally even search Amarin jacket and it just comes up there. People are making fakes of it and all sorts. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's not another level celebrity, but that's in terms of that. Yeah, it's working.
It's a huge following. It's like a different also like market of celebrity and influencer as well.
Definitely, and it's been so interesting to see that. And I think for the business internally, it's given us a bit more hope. Almost like Scott said about the religion.
Yeah.
You almost go away with it and hope for the best. But with this, it's like we've actually seen the results come through. So yeah, that's been a big one for us.
Amazing. And then Anthony, you work really closely with influencers on your side, don't you?
Yeah, actually, we have quite a lot. Actually, we used to have also big names. I guess this is also how you define celebrity in that sense. But for us, it really is about, again, the context of what we want to do. I think when we talk about those influencers that have 4 million followers, there's a few unicorns here and there, but obviously we would say we would hope that they would return like longer term. We still need to educate the audience. We still need to create that trust and things like this, which obviously doesn't have a direct return on investment. And also from an influencer perspective, we need to also build a relationship with these guys, which is also quite important in that sense. So it really depends. But what we see is that they usually pave the way for paid to come in and again, like,
and then
just
ramp it up
rake
from
money
that point.
and then say, oh, we know this brand from here, and then we don't have to go so intensely with like frequency or anything like this. Like we tend to see a faster return on investment from our paid, but again, they are part of the ecosystem. They're not just one entity.
And they can help amplify what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I also believe that paid can help them to grow as well. If the brand is more visible, maybe they want to work with us more and things like this. I think this is something that, like, this organic brand growth is actually more important for us now, where making sure that the brand grows and we see organic demand actually will help paid for the future and maybe invest into different channels, different avenues, like trying new things, because otherwise you're just always like tight on budget, and so you can't test
and then you're just always
anything.
putting money back into paid. And then you've got the ultimate unicorn.
Yeah, I think that's probably what I would say. Like, I always laugh when I get put up here. I'm definitely just a benefactor of really talented women around me. Like, it's insane the amount of talent at Skims that I get to take part of. And when you think about consumerism, like, you're really making decisions on two things. It's convenience and then cultural relevance. And if you think about Skims last year and the things they were able to do, where we had Lana, Sabrina Carpenter, Charlie, and then we hit it with Dolce and then the North Face, you're really having like a pulse
On everything.
on everything. Yeah.
Oh,
And
great tie-in.
sorry, I don't know. That was really bad. And having that like really strong partnership and understanding where to place it on the 14 channels at 100 ads a week clip, like, that is so important in those junctures where, look, we're gonna have a viral moment. It's going to shift all of your curves crazy up, and the goal of me is to get all of the demand under that curve. And you either know what to do or you don't know what to do, and the preparation, I guess, is the important part.
Yeah, amazing. And then I think we need to wrap up, but any quick tips for 2025 from everyone? Be besties with everyone.
I don't know. I think I think maybe this is like the theme of it, but most people think like marketing's like kind of like chess, where you have all of these inputs and then you get all these outputs, and the people who do in the least amount of like moves, that's like the best marketer. I think the truth of it is it's a lot closer to poker. Like, there's things I'm conceding on every day, and there's other things I'm going all in on, and knowing when to do that, and knowing when someone's lying, or when I need to lie, or when I need to tell the truth. Hopefully it's more truth than lies. That's a secret. The secret is that, like, everyone's a human, and you're working on yourself, and you're working on being good at what you do all the time.
Yeah, from our end, I think it would be like spending time with the other teams, actually trying to understand the other departments, what they care about, and really try and just create a relationship with the other departments to really drive their performance, which means it'll drive your performance as well. And I think to echo that is just to say, like, teamwork actually really pays off over the longer run. So yeah, definitely just spend time with the people.
Yeah, and for us, I guess it's more about that test and learn approach. Keep testing different audiences, different creatives, throughout all those ad sets on Meta. Keep diversifying through Google, through different product categories. In that sense, for us, is really key. Offering such a wide array of products, being able to switch when we need to, is key for us. So it is that test and learn approach, and then pushing those winners. Definitely.
Amazing. So agile and best friends with everyone. Perfect. Well, thanks everyone. And that's us.
Thank you.